on the panel?
That should be it. That should be it for now. We might add a few more folks later on. So I want to take this time to welcome everyone. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, to this special episode of Ubuntu, a global dialogue. And so we're going to be chatting with Mr. Okey Mbonu, who is a presidential aspirant for the upcoming 2023 elections in Nigeria. And with me, I have my colleague, Dr. Paul Easterling, who is our Oga of Humanities at Osiri University. And we have a barrister, solicitor of the UK with strong Nigerian roots, Madam Nwabweze. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I also have a guest, His Royal Highness, Reverend Dr. Prince A.Z.K. Adekoya II, the second. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's dig in right away. Without further ado, Mr. Okey Mbonu, you live in the US and you want to vie for the highest position of the land, the great land of Nigeria. What is your preparation for that level of leadership?
All right. Well, thank you very much, Prof. Osiri and the panel. It's my pleasure to be with you this morning. I will first like to preface whatever I say by saying that I actually live also in Abuja, Nigeria. So I'm sort of like a creature of two worlds. I have a base and an office in Washington, D.C., and also in Abuja, Nigeria, even though my professional training was in Washington, D.C., and I've had quite a bit of a career on this side of the Atlantic. But I am as much a resident of Abuja, Nigeria, where I'm also a registered voter and a registered member of the People's Democratic Party, which is the largest party in Africa, and one of the contending parties in Nigeria. And that's the premise for my presidential run.
And so what is your level, what is your preparation?
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now that we get that off the ground, well, I feel like in some ways that I've been preparing for this race for most of my life, because I think the earliest part of my public service was as a child, following my father around, who was a public servant in Nigeria, in the various cities and states that he served in Nigeria as a public servant. But from that point on, things sort of started to take their own turn, because I recall that at about the age of 9 or 10, I got fixated on what it takes to lead countries. And I started reading biographies of a lot of the political leaders, not in Nigeria, but in Africa. So by the time I was about 10, 11 years old, I had read biographies of Kwame Nkrumah, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Julius Nyerere, Kenneth Kaunda, and all of the leaders that came out of post-colonial Africa. I sort of had this idea that I needed to get some insight into why they were motivated along the lines of leadership that they were. And then ultimately, went into high school, and it was a different ball game, because now the fun begins. You get to hang out, with the girls in debate parties, and so all of that went out the window for a while. And then eventually, when I transitioned to the United States and went to college and law school, ultimately my interest in leadership and public service started to blossom once again. And so, so at the time I was in the second year of the law school, I actually contested an election as one of the senators on the student body that would represent at the University Governing Council. And so before I graduated law school, I was already sitting on the governing board of the University of the District of Columbia School of Law in Washington, D.C. And then shortly after that, I went into public corporate advisory law in the nation's capital. And while I was doing that, I also maintained relationships in the community. And then also, if you are in the Washington, D.C. area, you get to mingle with the folks that make policy that drive the United States as a country, and that also design and define what direction the United States goes, both nationally and internationally. And I served as an aide to some representatives in my area, and ultimately got nodded as a political appointee. I got appointed to serve as a commissioner, housing and community development in the Maryland suburbs of Washington, D.C., which was a pretty significant role because at that time, no non-native born had ever served in that role in Maryland and perhaps the entire East Coast of the United States. And also the agency that I was appointed as commissioner was one of the most important agencies in government. It was Housing and Community Development, which sort of mirrors what housing and urban development does at the national level in the US, at the local level, with operating in a jurisdiction that was a very high profile jurisdiction in an area in a jurisdiction with a budget of about $1 billion, and with all manner of projects and community development initiatives going on. So I served in that role for 5 years, and honed my skills in policy, in designing programs that sort of enhance a community, wherever that community might be. And a lot of these skills are skills that are transferable from one jurisdiction to the other, and indeed nationally from one country to the other. And then from that point on, when my term ended in government, I went into active consulting and found that I was a sought after expert to offer advisories to agencies and institutions around DC, and most of the things that happen in DC are pretty much national in scope. I had a stint with the Africa Committee at the United States Congress, providing advisory in that arena. I also had a stint with the Woodrow Wilson Center for International Scholars, providing advisory there. I had a stint with Organization of American States, providing advisory there. Organization of American States covers the 32 countries in North America, and their international headquarters as a multilateral is in Washington, D.C., provided advisory there. And then I think the highlight of my public exposure was actually when I got tapped to be an analyst at the media giant MSNBC. So between 2012 and 15, I was a regular analyst at MSNBC, helping them to analyze most of the hot button issues that were arising out of Nigeria and West Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. Most of those are matters of public records right now. But in doing all that, I got exposed also to a lot of leaders at both the national and international levels, and interfaced with presidents of several African countries, in addition to senior leaders in the United States, both and the Congress and also at the executive branch. And that sort of exposed me to high-level policymaking that will be impactful at a national level, especially in a developing country. And that's part of the foundation that I bring to this. Now, when I think about some of the other potential contenders in Nigeria for the presidency in 2023.
Mr. Mbonu, if you
Yes.
don't mind, before you start with the other contenders, let's dig in a little bit more and find out about you and what you have to offer. I'd like to invite Madam Mwabweze to chime in here. I believe she has a question or two for you, and then I will go to my colleague, Dr. Paul Easterling. Madam Mwabweze.
Okay. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you, aspiring presidential candidate. What do you think of the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria?
Well, the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria, it's a document that was hurriedly put together by a military junta that was in a hurry to enthrone itself. So it is not perfect by any means. It is, but like any living document, it's subject to amendments, and some of the amendments have been incremental, but they are happening. The most recent amendments happened, I think, in the past 30 days. Trying to tweak it to get it to be more in line with what true federalism and the true democracy can be.
Thanks very much indeed. I'm going to ask another question because you've said the key words I was looking for. True federalism, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, well, true federalism, of course, the federating units have a certain measure of independence.
Indeed, your experience, you've lived and worked in America. Yes. Do we have true federalism in Nigeria? That's a rhetorical question. We know we don't. When you're president, what will you do about it?
Well, we intend, myself and my team and whoever else is going to be involved in that process, we intend to introduce series of major amendments to the Nigerian Constitution.
You're the president in the executive arm.
Yes.
Yes, I suppose the executive arm could bring proposals to the legislature. Mm-hmm. But there are people in Nigeria who contend that we can't actually have an election run under the present constitution because that constitution is null and void. It is a constitution that is primarily a recasting of decree number 24. What is your view on that?
Well, I think it's an uphill battle for any group to present that the document that is the guidepost for 200 million people can be discarded by plain rhetorics or the wishes of a few, because there's too much at stake. Now, for countries to actually move forward, there has to be a certain level of forward movement with what you have. And what you have could now give birth to to the process of forging ahead towards a more perfect union. Even the United States, as old as it is still forging ahead towards a more perfect union. And
so you don't think the 1999 Constitution is fatally flawed? You don't think that?
No, I don't think.
Why do you not think it is fatally flawed? I'd like to hear your rationale.
Okay. All right. Well, everyone starts out with some form of foundation. Some of those foundations may be weak, but they are subject to tweaking here and there in the interest of a larger goal. Now, without a constitution, we are in a state of chaos. We will not be subject to the rule of law that would normally apply in a democracy. So that constitution, like in the United Kingdom, for example, where the constitution is unwritten, you find series of conventions and all kinds of things that have been adopted through the years that are guiding the people, and it has made for a not so bad society because they continue to improve on it. And so even if Nigeria did not have this constitution to work with at this point in time, there would have needed to be like a series of cobbled together conventions that would have been the guidepost. But because this constitution already exists, we do have an opportunity to work within that framework to now amend and reform a whole lot of things and begin to move toward the practice of true federalism. And some of the true federalism, actually, it's going to arise by default because for one thing, the federating units in Nigeria do not have their own internal security force, like the police and law enforcement. Now, but what is happening is that almost all of the states have started to initiate vigilante type security apparatus. So what happens is that at the end of the day, what I actually witnessed in Nigeria recently when I travel around the states is that in some of the states, they no longer invite the federal police to keep law and order when they're having, community events. They invite the local vigilante. And by doing that, that is the rudiments of federalism because now they are taking charge of their own law enforcement, within their own domain. And if that takes hold all over Nigeria, then that's one aspect of true federalism that are just arisen by default. And then the tax situation also. Well,
thanks very much indeed. I do agree with you that Nigeria is de facto moving towards true federalism. Be that as it may, there is too much power concentrated in Abuja. I'm going to move to your party now, PDP. There are so many presidential aspirants from PDP. How are you going to? There's Atiku. There's the pharmacist. There are many contenders.
Mm-hmm.
How do you hope to convince your party to give you the presidential ticket? And then I tag another question to that. There's this controversy about turn by turn, and it's the turn of the Southeast. Some people think it's a turn of the South, which therefore means that the vice president, for instance, Osibanjo and Tinubu, they are contenders, albeit in a different party. How do you think you'll get the ticket? Or is this, are you laying foundation for future aspirations? You sound more to me like a policy wonk.
Well, these are some pretty interesting questions. And first of all, there are not really a lot of contenders. Well,
they are a lot
in the PDP, which is my party, the party that I'm aligned with.
Right? That was the name I was looking for.
Yeah, I know. I don't know of him. I was just going to rattle off their names. Now, there are 4 people right now that have declared their formal intent to the party in a formal way. And that would include myself, Okey Mbonu. That would include Dele Momodu. That would include Ohuabunwa. And that would include Atiku Abubakar to the extent that I know. So that's 4. So 4
you haven't
is
mentioned any of the northern contenders. There are many.
Well, they have not declared their intent formally and officially to the party. When you engage with the party at a formal level and present yourself in a formal way, and that party now is aware that you are a contender. So that's where it is right now. But even if 5 more people arise today, it still will not be such a crowd, because in some of the US presidential primaries, you actually have 11 candidates, more, and then, eventually the light begins to rise from the darkness. So what I know is that compared to these 4 candidates for right now, that I am contending with, that my campaign team is contending with, Nigerians are going to see that there's a clear difference between my capacity and competence and exposure and world-class training to do this compared to any of these other people in every way imaginable. Now, all we need to begin to do at this point in time is for us to begin to engage with each other more in the media and in forums, and you're going to see the difference come out, because there are people who actually should not be in the contention at all for various reasons.
Thanks very much. Let's stay with you. What have you done in Nigeria? What kind of work experience have you got in Nigeria? How many years have you actually spent in Nigeria as an adult working, and in what capacity?
Well, I've been a consultant in Nigeria over the past, I would say, 12 years or thereabout. I have a Nigerian background through and through. I did my high school education and the early part of my youth in Nigeria. And even while I operate also in the United States, because I do have ties on both sides of the Atlantic, and that is nothing to be ashamed about. Politically, it gives me an edge. My competence level is way higher. I've operated in.
I'm terribly sorry. I'm actually asking for specifics. I'm going to use myself as an example. I qualified in Nigeria. I studied in Nigeria. My first degree is a Nigerian degree. I worked in Nigeria. I worked in the Ministry of Justice. I worked in the Federal Ministry of Commerce. I worked in the Federal Mortgage Bank. Before I left Nigeria, I live in the UK now. So I know what it means to live and work in Nigeria. I was educated in Nigeria. I understand Nigerian people. I am Igbo. I understand who I am as an Igbo person. My family is also a political one. So I want you to be specific. What is your experience of Nigeria? Did you do your O-levels in Nigeria? Did you have university education in Nigeria? Did you work in any Nigerian organization before you came away? Because I think these things are important. I have lived there, and I've participated in many elections for prime minister, and they were all educated and worked and lived in their country, and they understand everything that pertains to their country. And most of the politicians here in the UK, and indeed in your country, apart from Trump, they start from humble beginnings. Tony Blair couldn't find a safe seat. It took him about 3 or 4 times before he eventually found a seat. And then he became an MP, and he was an MP for Durham for many, many years before he aspired to be prime minister. Why do you think you miss local government? You miss the state assemblies. Your father didn't do that. You missed federal house. You missed the Senate, and you go straight up to the presidency.
Yes, there's
very good reasons.
Excuse me, before you answer that question, I'd like to have Mr. Leader to prepare to answer the question about some of the issues, because it's related to the question that's been asked now by Madam Mwabweze. talking about the issues on ground, that there are certain things that you gain by living in the country, by being part of that. And I'd like for a leader, if you don't mind, after he answers the question, to talk about what are some of the issues on ground as you see it, just to extend, by way of extending that question. And then I'll go to His Royal Highness Adekoya to also chime in as well. What are some of these issues on ground? Because we need to really understand, because our country, Nigeria, is on its knees and begging for help right now. And we cannot miss this opportunity to get someone to head the helm of affairs. So go ahead and answer the question posed to you by Madam Mwabweze and Mr. Okey Mbonu. Go ahead, please.
All right, yeah. Thank you, Ms. Mwabweze, for your questions. Well, first of all, there are minimal requirements to run for the president of Nigeria, and I do meet those minimal requirements. Nigerian born, education up to a certain level, age. Okay. Now, but beyond that, I've spent a good chunk of my life in Nigeria before migrating, even though I was younger. Now, O levels and all that. Okay. Now, the depth of Nigeria's problems today are such that only he or she who can bring solutions to the problems of Nigeria deserve to be the president of Nigeria. This is not child's play. This is like the lives of 200 million people. And I'll tell you something, any society that does not position itself for forward progress begins to die a rapid death.
You're not answering any of my questions.
Okay.
What is your understanding of the educational system in Nigeria, of security, of health issues? Okay. What are the issues that ordinary Nigerians are concerned about?
Okay, of course, I have a total 110% understanding of Nigeria's security situation, Nigeria's educational situation. And if you must know, actually, if you have to go back into my records with MSNBC, when the northeast of Nigeria exploded in violence because of Boko Haram, the person you're looking at right here, yours truly, was the person who profiled one of the solutions that was adopted not just by Nigeria, but by the entire ECOWAS to confront Boko Haram as a collective rather than a one-on-one engagement with Boko Haram, because Boko Haram was basically operating between the borders of Nigeria and a couple other countries up in the sub-Saharan environment. But no one at that time knew exactly how to engage Boko Haram. I'm on record as to having profiled an approach, which I may not go into in greater details right now, that actually helped to contain Boko Haram in somewhere between 2012 and 2014. Okay, now, when I become president, of course, I don't have to be an expert in every single thing. I have security advisors with high-level security background as part of my political team in Nigeria at this time that operate out of my office in Abuja, that also offer the level of advice and the level of programs that we will use to engage at the security level. But beyond that, most of the security situation in Nigeria today are situations that will require some out-of-the-box thinking, because if the locals who've been in Nigeria, running Nigeria for the past even 20 years knew what they were doing, Nigeria will not be in the debacle that it is right now. So Nigeria is going to require some out of the box thinking, which can only come from a holistic approach from the outside looking in, because those on the inside, there's so much that they are not seeing. Okay, that's on the security side. And then on the educational side, I do know that the Nigerian educational system right now is so flawed. It's so flawed that it is producing, in many cases, totally useless graduates who cannot really write and analyze things. And what I intend to do, as far as education is concerned in Nigeria, is that there's actually going to be a revised system, because not everyone has to go all the way to university. There are people who are skilled in other things that could have benefited from having skills, and where they're going to go ahead and start their own businesses. In the United States, for example, a plumber can make as much money as a doctor or a lawyer, because basically, they channel towards that area where they have their skill, and there's a lot of opportunity in the economy for plumbers or electricians or whatever. Now, the educational system in Nigeria is sort of like a pipeline. It's a crude pipeline where folks come out of high school, and because there's a kind of peer pressure, everyone has to go to college and look fancy. People end up going to university and studying courses that they never have any aptitude for, and that they don't have any means of actually practicing it, because the economy is so small in Nigeria right now as far as employment is concerned. We're talking about—
I'm terribly sorry, I'm going to stop you. I think you are describing, insofar as education is concerned, what you are familiar with. You are describing the southern part of Nigeria. We have a problem in Nigeria. Nigeria has the greatest number of out-of-school children in the entirety of the world, 17 million.
Yeah,
so, to my mind, this is the fundamental crack in nation building. You've got half the country who do not go to school, and the other half who have embraced education. So, what are you going to do about it? Number one question. And then the second question is, you've picked up on security. Nigeria is in a state of civil war. It's quite interesting how much, I don't know how to say this without sounding really harsh, but there are more Nigerians dying from all kinds of different groupings, how so one may describe them, than all the deaths combined of people in Syria, in Yemen, in Ukraine. There are millions of Nigerians who live in displaced camps. The country is in a quiet, chaotic state. And I just find it baffling how politicians are going about their business. And then there's the issue about fossil fuel. How are we going to transition out of that? What about the environment? I don't know. Nigeria, to my mind, is such a colossal problem, and I think it's a little patronizing for people like ourselves who do not live in Nigeria.
I do live in Nigeria as well.
All those things, to think that we can parachute in and wave a magic wand and everything's going to get better.
Well, that is not the case.
I'm terribly sorry.
Can I come in, please?
Okay.
You guys mind if I come in a little bit?
Not at all.
Well, I can respond to
that. Go ahead, leader.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you guys thank you. This is a very, very interesting conversation. And this is the kind of conversation that I like to hear. We're having very real conversations. And I really thank you guys, everyone who's on here, especially Dr. Suri, for putting this together. Yes, that is true. Nigeria, our country has a lot of problems, but we have to talk about the great things about our people. We have the best citizens, one of the best citizens anybody in the world could ask for. I mean, you can check it out. After I speak, you can go check it out. We have the citizens who ask nothing of their government. We have citizens who all they ask is security. Citizens that provide their own roads, they provide their own infrastructure, they build their own schools, they provide their own light. They provide their own water. They have their their boreholes. Every problem that the government is supposed to provide, they literally provide it themselves. To the part that they even export education, meaning that they send their kids out to Ghana, to Benin Republic, if the educational system is not working. So that's the kind of citizens we have.
In the South.
Well, in the South, that is, but the
Those
South
citizens are in the South.
Yeah, but the South is still part of Nigeria, and also in the North as well. The North
see,
also.
Look, we have a problem. We have a country that's divided along so many lines. And we need to begin to look at those divisions in order that we can actually begin to
I also believe that it's not just
solutions.
I also believe that it's not just the South. I've lived in the North as well. The Northerners also provide their own. They provide their own infrastructure. They provide their own security. As we speak in Nigeria, a part of Boko Haram has taken over certain parts of the country and they're collecting taxes. So the South did not still buy generators. Did not still provide basic infrastructure.
I'm making sweeping statements here.
Okay, I'm
saying that there's a degree of difference between the way different groupings of Nigeria behave. There is a feudalistic way of living, which is alien to most people in the South.
Yes, that's the truth, but that is the truth. That is the beauty of federalism. That is the beauty of federalism. If you go across the world, it is also, you can see similarities of people living differently. Like even in the US, the people who live in the North are totally different from people who live in the South. Their way of life, their fast life, the South is totally different. That just comes to the territory of federalism.
No. There are certain basics that every citizen of the world in the 21st century should have. Education.
And that's what we're having.
Education.
And that's what we're having. That's what we're having.
Fundamental right of every human being, irrespective of where that child is born.
And that is why we're having this conversation.
This is one of the aspirations of the United Nations. We can't, we cannot afford, because of any reason, religion, culture, to penalize a citizen of the world in the 21st century. We can't do that.
But unfortunately, that is why we're having this conversation. But unfortunately, we can say the same thing and say that we're in the 21st century. Why should a country be shooting the rockets into another country and nothing is happening to that country? So the reality, we have to deal with reality of the world. We're in Nigeria and we have wholesome problems. We have wholesome situations that we are trying to tackle. We're trying to deal with. Nobody has all the answers to solve Nigerian problems. But what we need a leader who understands at least the solution, who understands what Nigeria needs to be on the track. Nigeria cannot be fixed even in 8 years, in my opinion. This is my personal opinion. Nigeria cannot be fixed by a magic wand. Nigeria cannot be fixed just because we're talking about the problems. What we need is a leader who understands that Nigeria needs to be put on a track to success. What we have missed, especially by this administration that came in and is about to leave, is that we have gone very, very backwards from at least where we were complaining from our starting point. 99 wasn't a bad situation, wasn't as bad. Boston did relatively really good, Nigerian standard. And then we got to Jonathan, and then we got to Buhari, who took us way backwards. What we need is a leader now who understands the problem. And talking about education, the problem with our education, yes, we do have a lot of out-of-school children. That is true. And I believe that what we need is a leader who can influence the Northerners, the people in the North, to take education. So what we need to do is a crusade on education. Because we need a different approach. Because the same out-of-school children are very literate in Islamic, Arabic language. So what we can do, so the solution for that part of the North, if we're talking about, because we have to address education by the different regions. We have to have different solutions. It cannot be just a holistic solution because the North and the South are not at par when it comes to education. So we have to, and let us remember that Nigeria worked perfectly only when we had regional system. When with Nigeria we accepted, not this Nigeria we have now. So when you're talking about
so you are in support of fiscal federalism?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay. How can we achieve that with the 1999 Constitution?
Yeah, we Sam Okey said, we have a document that is a living document, and it can be amended. It can be improved upon. So the Nigerian Constitution the 99 Constitution needs to be improved upon, and we have a lot of opportunity to do that. Because the truth is that when you go to the South, you go to the North, you go to the Southwest, you go to the South, Nigeria is not winning. Nigeria is not succeeding. So what we need is a leader who can bring everybody together and do a constitutional conference with clear goals set before we get into what we need to see out of that constitution. Restructuring is something that is in everybody. Go ahead. Sorry.
Let me bring in His Royal Highness Prince Ezike, because he's been quiet all along. I'd like to for us to also hear from him. Prince Adekoya II, please.
Thank you so much, Professor Osiri and every members of the panel. And most importantly, my future president, Okey Mbonu. And thank you everyone for being here. Of course, we are here to deliberate about the situation of our country and the reason why I personally believe that Mr. Okey Mbonu will be the right person to move Nigeria forward. Of course, while I agree with some of the speakers here today on the problems of Nigeria that we all know about, those problems were not created in one day, and it cannot disappear overnight. Everything takes time, but the longer it takes, the more it shatters the hope of the people. I am a very strong believer in the unity of Nigeria, South, North, West, East, and what have you. Nigeria is Nigeria, my belief. Let's get that straight in the record. Does our constitution need to be amended? Yes, of course it needs to be amended. Is this the right time? No, absolutely. This is not a time for constitutional issues. Yes, we can talk about it, but this is not the time. What do we need in Nigeria now? A true leader that understands what it is to care for the masses, the underserved, and the marginalized. That's what we need. Somebody that will bring unity to Nigeria. One of my popular saying is that Nigeria needs a Jerry Rawlings. To several people, Jerry Rawlings means all kinds of things. I am not calling for violence. I'm a human rights advocate. And I am not calling for assassination of anyone or militarism of Nigeria or the military should return into power. Absolutely not. But what I am saying is this: in this new age, in the world we are today, we need sound-minded people that understand every part of the world to solve Nigerian problem. Nigeria is one of the largest nations in the world with what we call diversity. Talk about language, talk about tribe, talk about culture. We have to understand all this. And in order to solve our problem, we need to stop corruption and we need to stop the recycling system that is not taking us anywhere. The foundation of Nigeria is crack based on the Constitution. But can we deal with that overnight? No, it will take time. But what we need is get those people that are pulling Nigerian behind, get them off the way and bring a fresh blood, a fresh mind, and somebody who have compassion for the people to lead Nigeria. And such a person surround himself with the expert in different fields, be it security, be it education and medicals and what have you. That's the only way we can move forward. All this conversation that we're having is very valuable, and everybody's opinion is, okay, Opinion is opinion. It's not a fact. There's some factual elements in this conversation, and there's some things that we are jumping the gun. You can't put the cart before the horse. We take things as they go. My concentration this morning, as invited, is Okey Mbonu the right person to lead Nigeria forward? Yes. Whether he lives in Nigeria, whether he lives in the United States, we need an humble soul that understand international policy, that is seeing other part of the world, live other part of the world, study in the other part of the world, born in Nigeria, raised in Nigeria, know Nigeria to help Nigeria. No foreigner is not come to help Nigeria, but in Nigeria will help Nigeria. So I believe that Okey Mbonu has been trained for this. He is familiar with Nigeria. He can surround himself with the necessary people that needs to move Nigeria forward, because Nigeria stands today because of the diaspora, believe it or not. When we talk about the remittance, forget it. Most of us here, our family relies on what we'll send back home, not because of the job they do, because the job they do cannot help their living, cannot sustain them. So if we that are in the diaspora are not working with those at home, it's a waste of time. We have waited all this long, over 60 years of independence, with those who are back home helping us to build Nigeria, but we still get the same thing. I go back to Jerry Rawlings again. When the country wasn't favorable, when they think things weren't right, they do what they had to do. I am not calling for violence, but I believe it's time to retire the old folks who have no good intention for Nigeria and bring out the future of Nigeria. The future of Nigerians are the youth who can compete on a global scale and work with one another and understand what is going on to fix Nigeria. So Okey Mbonu is ready for this, and I'm sure he will surround himself with good leadership. And I'm sure people who have been overseas, like Madam Wabuze and every other people and people back home, we work together. The way Nigeria is working right now is that Nigerians working in Nigerians, siphoning Nigerians, killing Nigerians for their own personal gain. That needs to stop.
That's a good place to enter here, because speaking of working together, His Royal Highness Prince Adekoya II, there's a question in the chat room by Dr. Mukhtar Yusuf. Dr. Mukhtar Yusuf has a question for presidential aspirant, Mr. Okey Mbonu. He wants to know, Mr. Okey, what is your plan to galvanize fragile bonds amongst the three major ethnic groups that seemingly threatens the sovereignty of the nation? That's the first question from Mr. Mukhtar Yusuf. He also wants to know, what are your plans to revamp the fragile economy? Mr. Okey Mbonu.
Yes, thank you so much for that. Very relevant questions. Now, a couple of the interviews that I had in Nigeria recently, I stressed on the fact that the inter-ethnic strife in Nigeria is being perpetuated by people who do not have sufficient appreciation of diversity. Because if you, and that includes some of the leaders that are even positioning themselves for the presidency, they don't understand diversity. Now, diversity is the greatest asset any nation can deploy for massive progress, because it brings talents from different angles and from different viewpoints. And when you now mix it all together, you get a hybrid that will propel any venture to the highest level that it could be. And so in Nigeria, what you find is that some people from some parts of Nigeria, I don't care whether it's south or north, tend to think that, oh, because they do certain things a certain way, that they are better than people from another part of the country. But the reality is, everyone has a different DNA and everyone has a different fingerprint. But the leader has to now coalesce everybody together and get the best out of all. Now, what I intend to do as president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is that I will create a presidential level advisory committee that would work seamlessly to continue to integrate Nigerians. Nigerians actually at the youth level are very massively integrated with one another. They are not as strife-oriented as some of the people who have run things before now. Because those people who have run things before now, some of them have a very narrow prism. They think it's about one region or the other. But in reality, for the country to move forward, the country has to fire from all cylinders. And so I would personally take the lead to reach out to every single region of Nigeria. And I've actually done a bit of that, even in the past 10 years or so. I have programs that I have deployed in different parts of Nigeria. If you look at some of the pictorials from my last outing in Nigeria, because this is not really my very first outing, just to let Madam know, in 2018, when I actually moved to Nigeria, I attempted to get into the primaries, but at some point, the party wasn't quite ready. This is a better moment for that. And so my outreach and my relationships are all over Nigeria. I don't think any Nigerian is better than the other. If somebody desires that they're going to have a mansion and a Range Rover, it doesn't make them better than somebody who desires to have maybe a simple accommodation. It means that they have different ways of looking at things. And so no Nigerian in any region of Nigeria has the right to look down on another Nigerian from another region of Nigeria just because they don't want the things that they want, just because they don't like the things that they like. Everyone is gifted in their own way. And what we have to do is identify value in everyone and put it in the mix. And you find that these things, the strife will drop. No one is trying to kill each other because they figure that, each other. And then, of course, the religious situation, it needs to be defined more clearly in Nigeria that the country is a secular country. People can go and worship any way they want. They could worship on Saturdays, they could worship on Fridays, they could worship on Sundays. Worship is a very private affair and should not have a lot to do with the secularity of governance. And so when we talk about the kind of strife that exists in Nigeria today, that is propagated by some of the visible people today who are already stained from all that strife, my own government will be a breath of fresh air. It will be light unto the darkness. Everything will be transparent. And as a matter of fact, the only way, I'll give an example. I don't know how many people know about the sharks in the ocean, for example, but the shark only swims forwards. If it ever tries to swim backwards or go backwards, it dies. And that mirrors life in general in terms of the progress of a nation. Now, electing any of these other contenders that you talked about into a role as vital as the presidency of Nigeria at this point in time means that people are recklessly trying to kill Nigeria, because these people do not have anything new to offer. Some of them may have a sense of entitlement because they've been in government and they've benefited from maybe every level of their career was basically lived off of government. And so they have a sense of entitlement, but in reality, they're not bringing solutions. Now, if the solutions to the problems of Nigeria are going to come from a certain candidate, and that candidate will be myself, for example, then the country and the citizens, the populace will be reckless to choose darkness over light, because that's not life. I mean, even a baby born last night, if you bring that baby too close to a flame, they will cringe, even though they cannot speak. Now, most Nigerians were born in the night, but not last night. And they will identify that this is a moment in time when Nigeria has to either move forward or prepare to die. And that's part of my response to Mustafa's question. I think
Dr. Mukhtar Yusuf also wants to know about your plan for the economy. That's the part B of this question, if you may.
Second question, okay. Now that is the most exceptional part of the program that I'll bring on board, because consider that today, Nigeria is a $514 billion GDP economy, and that is operating at only about 10% of the true capacity of the country. Now, there are some fundamental things that we're going to bring on board that drive the engine of the 21st century. One of it, that infrastructure that has to do with energy has to be deployed like yesterday. There's really no time. That will be one of these things that we'll have to do from day one. Okay, to initiate power delivery in Nigeria that should generate electricity for 24 hours a day is not an impossible task at all. It's just that people have gone about it the wrong way. And once we do that and secure that, then we're going after the telecommunications. Well, actually, we're going to do these things simultaneously because we can work and chew gum at the same time. Now, the telecom infrastructure in Nigeria has to be revised through a regulatory type process, because there is no reason why people on Nigeria cannot go online and spend all day online doing research or planning for the businesses that they are going to do, and then gathering all the information they need. There is no reason why people cannot go in and register a company in 30 minutes in today's Nigeria. In every other part of the world that is progressing, you register a company in maybe 20, 30 minutes. In Nigeria, it takes the better part of maybe 2 months, 3 months to register a company. And while you're waiting for that period to register a company, your ideas begin to wane. You know, you have all kinds of frustrations that will hold you down. And so my plan is that this economy of 514 billion today, we are going to triple this economy in 2 years in office, maximum. We're going to triple that economy, and tripling is really just being conservative, because as we roll out the infrastructure of energy, a whole burst of service industries will take off overnight. I don't know if anyone has ever tried to service a car in Nigeria, in today's Nigeria, where you take the car into a service pit, and there's no lift to lift the vehicle, and they use manual tools to take out the wheels and all these things. And then you find that a service that is about a 20-minute service in the United States or any other part of the world is a 7-hour job in Nigeria, just because they don't have power tools, just because they cannot diagnose things as rapidly as they should. All of these things are not rocket science, but I bet you 100%, I can put my life on it, that none of these other contenders know these ingredients of a successful economy. These things are not rocket science. These things are things that you either know based on exposure and competence and where you've been, or you don't know. It's either you know or you don't know. And I guarantee you that these other people do not know these things. The service economy alone in the entire breadth of Nigeria will boost that economy by another 35 to 40%. And then the interstate commerce, which barely exists right now, even interstate tourism barely exists right now, is an area that will add another 25% to the economy of Nigeria based on what it is now. There are beautiful parts of Nigeria, in Calabar, in the north of Nigeria, that people can just travel from Lagos, for example, which is quite a stressful city, and go to those places and rejuvenate for maybe about a week. So all of these are integral areas of the economy that we are going to pursue simultaneously. But if you don't know it, you don't know it. And also, just to add a little mix to this, why the diaspora experience is so valuable is that in the 50s, before Nigeria became president, it was actually people who came from the diaspora that facilitated that independence movement, because the locals didn't really think there were any serious problems. So if it was not that some of these people from the diaspora, like Nanda Zigiwe or Bafemi Awolowo, Nwafo Orizu, and a couple other people, did not try to enlighten people and say, look, let's take charge of this environment and we'll have a better life. Nigeria probably would have been under colonial rule for maybe another 20 years, maybe as long as South Africa was under apartheid. It probably could have been something along those lines. So I know for sure that the level of competence and knowledge and sincerity of purpose that I bring into this cannot be matched by any other contender on the ground in Nigeria today.
There's been a request to extend this Ubuntu dialogue for another 1 hour. We usually do it for just 1 hour, but I am inclined to extend this, but not for another 1 hour. Maybe we'll just take a couple more questions and then we'll end, because we like to be respectful of our time here. I want to ask you by the audience, one from Azaria. Azaria wants to know, what is your vision for Nigeria's agricultural sector? What is your vision for agriculture, number one? Also, Ajenefuja, who has military experience, says, Mr. Okey, what are you willing to do to bring Nigeria military and police force back on the world stage? So there's two questions, one about agriculture, the second one about Nigeria's military and police force being back on the world stage to combat issues like terrorism and so forth in Africa and around the world.
Okay, it is first for agriculture. It is an open secret that Nigeria is one of the most fertile places where you can produce all manner of food, not just for local consumption, but actually for export. I don't know if anyone knows this, but Nigeria as a country right now is losing out on $250 billion worth of exports that they should have been exporting out of Nigeria. And the reason is because there's all kinds of impediments that stifle production of agricultural products and getting them marshaled out for and prepared for export. That's for on the export side to generate revenue. But on the east side, you know that a certain region of Nigeria, I think it's Mbonu and Plateau, grow massive vegetables, but those vegetables don't have sufficient storage capacity to actually store them and distribute them well across the country to enhance the agricultural products, reaching everywhere and feeding those 200 million people. And so what ends up happening is that once those goods are moved by tractor trailer to a place like Lagos, if they are not all sold within a couple of hours, they decay and they become waste. So what we want to do is that we are going to now, by the creation of the capacity for energy that can preserve foods, all kinds of new industries will actually spring up, because there's no reason why a lot of all those fruits and veggies and everything in Nigeria cannot be canned for preservation and added value in terms of the food chain in general. So my administration would make it a focal point to ensure that these foods that get wasted because they cannot be stored, that the facilities for the storage and the distribution of these foods will become much more prevalent. And then also, excuse me, my voice. The export capacity right now is not being utilized at all. And because they're not being utilized, we are missing out on non-fossil fuel revenues. Fossil fuel is ancient history. Nigeria has so much intellectual capacity that has been, some of it is being exported, the music and all that. But the agricultural side, another huge area that we are actually passing up the opportunity to neighboring countries like Ghana. A lot of the African food that is consumed in the United States is coming out of Ghana and some of those other places. whereas Ghana is like one state in Nigeria. And so those are areas that we are beaming in terms of developing the agriculture to have value added productivity that will ultimately add to the economy. And then when it comes to the law enforcement and the military institutions in Nigeria, here's what I know. I know by interacting with the law enforcement and the military that the conditions of service is not what it should be. I have visited some police colleges. I have some friends in the military intelligence, and all the other military agencies. And I find that the morale is not there. And the morale is not there because people have not done well by the police. I'm talking about leadership. Because the benefits of a law enforcement officer who could die on duty should be 10 times what it is right now. There should be programs that will actually allow law enforcement and military to tap into special facilities. Like in the United States, any veteran or military person who wants to buy a house gets to do it with no money down. That is non-existent in Nigeria at this time. All of these programs that can enhance the livelihood of the average law enforcement or military family, police, army, navy, are not there right now. And so you unfortunately find that there have been police or any other agency that double in different things. Or the worst case scenario, they could be law enforcement by day and be something else sinister at night. We don't want that. But even at that, they've had to struggle to maintain their families. So it will be my priority that the people that will serve and protect us night and day have a lifestyle that at least mirrors middle-class Nigeria, even though middle class doesn't quite exist anymore, but we have to rebuild that. If they are not living at the level of middle-class Nigerian, then I, as president, will have to give off whatever that comes with presidential remuneration to make sure that they do that. I am not coming into this because all of a sudden I want to maybe go live in a mansion. I've seen all of those kinds of lifestyles around the world. My mission is really like service to Nigeria. And if anyone else claims that they're in a position to serve Nigeria or have the energy and the ideas and the competence and the solutions, then they will be in serious contention. But I know that some of these other named persons that are also interested in this race don't have that. They don't have that mindset of service. Some of them think they're coming to rule Nigeria. They use these words, they throw around these words carelessly. Nigeria is not a kingdom, so you're not coming to rule. If you're not coming to serve the country, then you ought to go and rule your village or rule your household if they will make you a king. Good enough thing there are still kingdoms in Nigeria where you could go and be a king, of a town or a village. But if they are coming into this with the mindset that are coming to rule Nigeria, then that's not the Nigeria that we expect to build in future. Thank you.
Well, that is a good place for us to end this very good and pertinent conversation. I'd like to first and foremost thank Madam Anwabeze, who's joined us and who got us started on the right footing here, making sure that we ask the right questions to presidential hopeful Mr. Okey Mbonu. Thanks to His Royal Highness, Reverend Dr. Prince AZK Adekoya II for tuning in and letting us know where you stand. Thanks to you, Mr. Leader Agunwa, for also tuning in and sharing some of the issues you believe going on in Nigeria. I'd like to thank my co-host, Dr. Paul Easterling, who is an African-American and a brother He is the Oga of Humanities at Osiri University. Yeah, we've been able to put this together to make sure we have a platform where we can discuss this. Not shown here, we have Dr. Marachi Amugo, who is president of Osiri University, and Madam Janisha Francis as well, who are working behind the scenes. This has been a very wonderful conversation. I think Nigeria is a very important country, not just for Africa, but for the world. So having this discussion about who's going to head the hem is of utmost, in my humble opinion, importance in this day and time. Thank you once again. And with that, Ubuntu.
Thanks very much indeed.